If you have a wheat penny in your pocket right now, stop for a second, because one of these ordinary-looking coins could be hiding a silent fortune. People spend them, ignore them, or toss them into jars without realizing what they may be holding. So check your pocket now. Check that old coin collection, and whatever you do not spend these coins until you know exactly what you're looking at. Nobody talks about these coins enough, but collectors know the difference between ordinary copper and serious money. And today, each coin gets more dangerous to ignore, with the final one bringing an even bigger shock. Imagine finding a penny that looks dark, worn, and almost forgotten, and then discovering collectors are willing to fight over the right example. That is where our first coin gets interesting. We're talking about the 1919 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark, in fine condition. At first glance, it doesn't scream treasure. In fact, its age and circulated appearance might make you think it's just another old penny. But this is exactly the trap. The coins people overlook are sometimes the ones that deserve a second look. The year 1919 came at a tense moment in American history. World War I had ended, but America was dealing with the enormous transition that followed. Soldiers were returning home, industries were changing direction, prices had risen sharply, and the country was moving from wartime production toward a very different economy. Labor unrest was spreading, major strikes were taking place, and Americans were adjusting to a new post-war reality. In that environment, the humble 1-cent coin remained part of everyday life, passing through millions of American hands while the nation itself was changing. And that background matters because this penny was produced during a period when the United States Mint was striking enormous quantities of coins for an economy that was still under pressure. The 1919 Lincoln cent was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which means there is no mint mark beneath the date. That tiny absence is one of the first things collectors check. On a wheat penny, the difference between a blank area and a small letter can completely change what you're looking at. Most people see nothing. Collectors see information. Now look at the front. The obverse carries Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Around him are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1919. Underneath the date, there is no mint mark because this coin came from Philadelphia. Turn it over and the entire personality changes. The reverse displays the classic wheat ears framing the words 1 cent and United States of America with E pluribus unum above. At the bottom is 1 cent with United States of America surrounding the central design. Those wheat stalks are exactly why generations of collectors came to call these coins wheat pennies. Hold one of these in your hand, and you can feel why old copper has such a different character. A standard Lincoln cent from this era weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures about 19.05 millimeters across, and is roughly 1.52 millimeters thick. Its circumference, or girth around the edge, is approximately 59.85 millimeters. The coin is made primarily of copper, about 95% copper, with the remaining portion consisting mainly of tin and zinc. There is no silver hiding inside it. The value story comes from the coin's history, survival, condition, collector demand, and the specific market surrounding desirable examples. Here's where things become much more interesting. A 1919 penny has already survived more than a century of handling. Think about everything that could have happened to it. It could have been dropped on sidewalks, buried in soil, carried in pockets, thrown into drawers, exposed to moisture, or simply spent again and again until its details disappeared. Every year that passes removes more surviving coins from pristine collecting condition. That's why original surfaces matter so much. A worn coin with honest age can be far more interesting than a coin that someone tried to make look new. And this is where I want you to be extremely careful. Never clean a wheat penny. That shiny appearance you might think is attractive can actually destroy the original surface collectors want. Harsh chemicals, polishing cloths, abrasive rubbing, and even aggressive home cleaning can leave permanent damage. Original toning, natural darkness, and an untouched antique surface can tell collectors that the coin has survived naturally. Once that surface is damaged, you cannot simply put it back. This detail changes everything for anyone who thinks cleaning an old penny is helping it. Now start looking closely at the tiny details. Don't just look at the date and stop. Check whether the date is genuine and readable. Look around Lincoln's portrait. Examine the lettering. Study the wheat ears on the reverse. Look at the rims and surfaces for unnatural scratches or polishing. Then check beneath the date for that missing mint mark. On this particular Philadelphia issue, there should be nothing there. Most people miss this because they're searching for a letter instead of understanding that no letter is itself the clue. That little empty space can be just as important as a mint mark. There is another reason collectors become emotionally attached to coins like this: survival. A coin doesn't have to be perfect to tell an incredible story. A fine condition, 1919 wheat penny has already lived through a century of American history while retaining enough design for someone today to identify and appreciate it. And when an old coin remains genuinely original, collectors aren't just buying copper. They're competing for a surviving piece of everyday America. That's why strong examples can disappear into collections and stay there for years. Now let's talk about the number that makes this penny impossible to ignore. Based on the market figure you've given for this specific 1919 Philadelphia wheat penny in fine condition, today's auction market value is approximately $22,000. That's not a claim that every 1919 penny is worth $22, zeroth, far from it. Condition, authenticity, originality, eye appeal, and the exact coin being offered all matter enormously. But when the right example enters the market, the conversation changes quickly. Suddenly, a coin that once bought almost nothing can represent serious money today. And watch what happens when collectors really want a coin. They don't always announce it loudly. Sometimes the competition is quiet. A bidder watches. Another bidder waits. Then the price climbs. Collectors who already own desirable examples may refuse to sell because replacing an original coin can be extremely difficult. Meanwhile, the supply of genuinely attractive survivors doesn't magically grow. Every coin lost, damaged, cleaned, or discarded leaves fewer untouched examples available. That's the basic pressure that can make collectors more aggressive when the right piece finally appears. So if you ever discover a 1919 wheat penny without a mint mark, don't throw it into a spending pile just because it looks old and worn. Put it somewhere safe. Don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't scrape the dirt away. Photograph both sides, protect the surfaces, and have a reputable professional examine it if the coin appears promising. Professional grading is critical when serious money is involved, because authentication, condition, surface quality, and originality can dramatically affect how collectors view the coin. And remember this: patience can be worth more than excitement. The biggest mistake a new collector can make is rushing to clean, sell, or spend an old coin before understanding what it is. Take your time. Look at the date. Check the missing mint mark. Study the surfaces. Compare the details. Most importantly, do not spend this coin if you believe you've found a genuine 1919 Philadelphia wheat penny that matches the characteristics we're discussing. You could be holding a fortune without realizing it. That is what makes the 1919 Lincoln Wheat Penny so fascinating. It doesn't look like a treasure chest. It looks like an old penny. But beneath that worn copper surface is a piece of post-war America, a century of survival, and a collector market capable of turning the right example into a $22,000 hidden wealth opportunity. This is not fiction. The real shock is how easily a coin can be ignored simply because it doesn't look impressive. And if you think this first discovery is surprising, stay close, because what comes next is even bigger. The next wheat penny has an even more dangerous story, and the detailed collector's notice could make you look at your old coins very differently. Before you throw that old brown penny into a jar, look at the date. A coin that appears dark, worn, and completely ordinary can survive for nearly a century and still attract serious collector attention. That is exactly why the 1927 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark in fine condition deserves a closer look. Most people see an old copper cent and move on. A collector sees age, original character, survival, and a piece of American history that could be hiding in plain sight. The year 1927 was part of a fascinating period in America. The country was deep into the roaring 20s, with automobiles, radios, factories, construction, and consumer spending transforming everyday life. But beneath that prosperity, the economy was already changing rapidly. The United States was becoming more industrial and urban, and the humble 1-cent coin was still essential for ordinary purchases. Millions of these pennies moved through stores, pockets, cash registers, and homes. Every one of them had a job to do, and most were never expected to survive as collectibles. The 1927 Lincoln cent was produced at Philadelphia, which is why this coin carries no mint mark beneath the date. That blank space is not damage, and it isn't something missing from the design. It is the identifying feature telling you where the coin was struck. On the front, you'll find Abraham Lincoln facing right, surrounded by the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and 1927. Flip it over, and you get the famous wheat reverse, featuring 2 wheat ears around 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. Now pay attention to the surface. Your example is described as having a brown layer, and that appearance can be part of the coin's character. Old copper naturally changes color as it spends decades exposed to air, handling, storage conditions, and its environment. Collectors often care deeply about whether that surface is original rather than artificially altered. A natural brown appearance can tell a story about age and survival. What looks unattractive to someone unfamiliar with coins may actually be one of the things a collector wants preserved. This penny has the classic specifications of an early Lincoln cent, approximately 3.11 grams in weight, about 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and roughly 1.52 millimeters thick. Its circumference, or girth around the edge, is approximately 59.85 millimeters. The composition is primarily 95% copper, with the balance made mainly from tin and zinc. That copper composition is also why old wheat pennies can develop such distinctive brown, reddish-brown, or darker surfaces over many decades. But here's the part people accidentally destroy. Never clean this coin. Do not polish it because you want the copper to shine. Do not rub away the brown surface. Do not use chemicals, household cleaners, or abrasive materials. Original toning matters, and once the natural surface is damaged, you cannot simply put it back. A cleaned coin can lose the very character collectors were paying attention to. If you think you found something special, protecting it is far more important than making it look shiny. And don't forget how much this little coin has already survived. A 1,927 cent could have been spent hundreds or thousands of times. It could have been dropped, scratched, exposed to moisture, carried in a pocket, or forgotten in an attic for decades. Every surviving example has its own journey. In fine condition, the major design elements remain visible, but the coin clearly shows circulation. That honest wear is important because collectors evaluate the entire surface, not just whether the date can be read. There is also a subtle detail that separates casual searching from serious searching. The mint mark area. Look directly beneath the date. On a Philadelphia 1927 wheat penny, there should be no letter. That's exactly what you want to see for this particular coin. Then examine Lincoln's portrait. The lettering, the wheat ears, the rims, and the overall surface. You're looking for authenticity and natural preservation, not an invented error or unusual variety. This coin doesn't need a dramatic mint mistake to become interesting. The collector demand comes from something much simpler. Genuine old Lincoln cents with pleasing original surfaces are pieces of early 20th century America. Collectors build sets by date and mint, and Philadelphia issues are an important part of that story. When an attractive coin appears, collectors may watch quietly, compete aggressively, or hold on to examples they already own. The supply of untouched survivors can shrink over time because coins get lost, damaged, cleaned, or simply removed from circulation forever. And now comes the number that makes this hidden treasure impossible to ignore. Based on the market value you've provided for this 1,927 Philadelphia wheat penny in fine condition, the current market figure is approximately $17,000. Remember, that does not mean every 1,927 penny is worth that amount. The exact condition, authenticity, originality, surface quality, and professional evaluation all matter. But if your coin genuinely matches the description, that is serious money sitting inside something that most people would probably spend without thinking twice. So if you discover one, slow down. Check the date first. Look beneath it for the missing mint mark. Study the brown surface and make sure nobody has tried to polish it. Protect both sides and avoid touching the surfaces unnecessarily. If the coin appears promising, professional grading is critical before making a major buying or selling decision. A certified evaluation can help establish authenticity and condition, and patience can prevent an expensive mistake. That's the real danger with old wheat pennies. They don't announce their value. They sit quietly in boxes, jars, drawers, inherited collections, and sometimes even pockets, waiting for someone to notice. A 1,927 no-mint mark cent may look like nothing more than an old brown penny, but the right example can represent hidden wealth, serious money, and a life-changing opportunity. So remember, do not spend this coin until you've checked it carefully. And if this 1,927 discovery already surprised you, don't get comfortable. The next wheat penny takes us into another chapter of American history, with another date collectors watch closely. The surface may look ordinary, the coin may feel forgotten, but the story behind it could be even harder to ignore. There's a reason old pennies can fool you. They don't sparkle, they don't look expensive, and most people never stop long enough to study them. But if you come across a 1,934 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark, don't rush to spend it. This is the kind of coin that can sit unnoticed for decades while collectors search for the right surviving examples. Check the date, check the mint mark area, and look closely at the surface, because what looks ordinary may deserve a second look. The story behind 1,934 makes this penny even more fascinating. America was still struggling through the Great Depression, and families were watching every cent. Banks had failed, Unemployment remained extremely high, businesses were under pressure, and ordinary Americans were trying to stretch small amounts of money as far as possible. A 1-cent coin wasn't meaningless, it was part of everyday survival. This penny circulated during a period when Americans understood the value of every coin in their pocket. That history gives the 1,934 cent a different feeling. The United States was beginning to move through the economic recovery created by President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs, while industry and employment slowly started changing direction. The Lincoln cent continued serving the public as millions of transactions depended on small denominations. The coins produced during this era became witnesses to one of the most difficult chapters in American economic history, and surviving examples today carry that connection with them. Now turn the coin over in your hand. On the obverse is Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Around the portrait are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and 1934. Directly beneath the date, this Philadelphia issue has no mint mark. Flip it to the reverse, and you'll see the famous 2 wheat ears surrounding 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum appears above. Those simple wheat stalks created one of America's most recognizable coin designs. The physical details are just as distinctive. A standard Lincoln wheat cent from this era weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures about 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and is roughly 1.52 millimeters thick. Its girth, or circumference, around the edge is approximately 59.85 millimeters. The coin is primarily 95% copper, with the remaining composition consisting mainly of tin and zinc. That copper surface is one reason these pennies can develop rich brown and reddish-brown appearances as they age. But don't make the mistake of thinking a dark or brown surface automatically means something is wrong. Natural aging can create beautiful antique coloration, and original toning matters to collectors. What you absolutely should not do is try to make the coin look newer. Never clean it. Don't polish it, scrub it, dip it in chemicals, or rub away dirt and toning simply because you want more shine. Cleaning can permanently alter the surface and destroy collector appeal. Once the original character is gone, you cannot put it back. Now imagine how much this little cent has survived. A 1,934 penny could have passed through countless hands during the Depression, through stores, businesses, homes, and cash registers, could have been dropped, scratched, stored in damp conditions, or forgotten for generations. A fine condition example has clearly circulated, but enough of the important design remains visible to identify its history. That survival itself is part of the attraction. You're not simply holding copper, you're holding something that made it through nearly a century of American life. And there's one tiny detail you should never overlook. Look underneath 1934. If you're searching for the Philadelphia issue described here, there should be no letter, no D, no S, just the date and the empty space beneath it. That missing mint mark tells you where the coin was produced. Then, inspect Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, the wheat ears, the rims, and the overall surface. Most people miss this because they only glance at the date. Serious collectors slow down and inspect the entire coin. The demand for these old Lincoln cents comes from their combination of history, age, collectability, and condition. Collectors building date and mint sets need Philadelphia issues, and original coins with attractive surfaces can become difficult to replace. Some collectors quietly hold desirable examples for years instead of selling them. That creates an interesting market dynamic. The older the coin becomes, the more important surviving quality can become. Supply doesn't increase. Coins disappear, get damaged, get cleaned, or are lost forever. Now, comes the market figure that makes this coin impossible to ignore. Based on the value you've provided for this 1,934 Philadelphia wheat penny in fine condition, today's market figure is approximately $19,000. That does not mean every 1,934 wheat penny is worth $19. Zeroth, the exact coin, condition, authenticity, originality, and professional assessment matter enormously. But if a genuine example matches the specifications we're discussing, you're talking about serious money hiding inside a coin most people could easily overlook. So what should you do if you find one? Start with the date. Then check underneath it for the missing mint mark. Examine both sides under good lighting without touching the surfaces unnecessarily. Look for natural coloration, original texture, readable details, and signs of cleaning or damage. Don't try to improve the coin yourself. Professional grading is critical when a potentially valuable coin is involved. And remember, patience creates wealth in collecting. Rushing can turn a valuable discovery into an expensive mistake. Here's what makes the 1,934 wheat penny so dangerous to ignore. It doesn't need a dramatic error or unusual variety to tell an incredible story. It is a standard Philadelphia issue from an unforgettable period in American history, carrying Lincoln on the front and the wheat ears of an earlier America on the back. If your example matches the condition and market description we've discussed, it could represent hidden wealth, a silent fortune, and a life-changing opportunity sitting unnoticed in plain sight. So before you throw that old penny into a spending pile, stop. Look at the date. Look beneath the date. Protect the original surface. Do not spend this coin until you've checked it properly. A little patience could be worth far more than the 1 cent stamped on the reverse. This is exactly why old wheat pennies deserve a second look, because the coin everyone else ignores could be the one you remember finding for the rest of your life. And that brings us to the end of today's countdown. We started with coins that could look completely ordinary, yet each one carried a story of American history, survival, and collector demand. The biggest lesson is simple. Don't judge an old coin by its face value. Check the date, understand the mint mark, protect the original surface, and never clean something before you know what you have. Sometimes, the smallest objects can hide the biggest surprises. If you found one of these wheat pennies in your pocket, an old jar, or a forgotten family collection, would you recognize it before spending it? That's the question every collector should be asking. Because while millions of ordinary coins disappear every day, genuinely desirable survivors become harder to find. And when collectors want something that is becoming harder to replace, the competition can change quickly. So keep searching, keep looking closely, and most importantly, never assume an old penny is worthless just because it looks worn. Your next discovery could be sitting somewhere completely unexpected. Stay alert, because the next coin we uncover could be even older, even harder to find, and even more dangerous to ignore. You might be spending your hidden fortune without even knowing it.